All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Buenos dias. If everybody can find a seat, we'll have a little time to continue to mix and mingle and have some fun. And welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. My name is Julio Malaran. I'm the CEO of the Business Report, and I'm thrilled to welcome all of you here to our annual Elevate Your Leadership and Your Team event. Today marks a pivotal moment for all of us gathered here as we embark on a journey of growth, empowerment, and I believe transformation. Before we dive into our session planned today, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to our sponsors, Acadian Home Theater and Automation, the Baton Rouge General, Investar Bank, Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge, Shell, Window World, Sparkhound, Cypress Roofing, and Guarantee Media for helping us put this event on. Their support not only makes events like this possible for business, but also, I think, symbolizes their desire to help us all foster growth in our personal lives. And so thank you so much. You know, one of my favorite proverbs is that by wisdom a house is built, through understanding it's established, and by knowledge its chambers are filled with beautiful and precious things. And it's a great metaphor for life, right? Let me rephrase it, because that house represents your life and my life, right? Through wisdom, a life is built. Through understanding, it's established. And by knowledge, its chambers are filled with beautiful and precious things. And I believe that moments like today are an opportunity for us to increase our knowledge base, right? So that we can get a deeper understanding and we can apply wisdom in our leadership, both for ourselves and the teams that we lead at work and at home. And so that's our desire. When we started this 4 years ago, was to help elevate, right, our community, because everything starts and finishes with leadership, right? And so this morning's experience is only possible because of the collaboration of a lot of people, right? And again, I'm extremely grateful to our sponsors, our staff and team that makes this possible, and also to Healing Place Church. One of the best leaders that I know is Pastor Mike Heyman, who leads this church. And from day one, when I contacted him about putting on this event, he said, we're all in. And what I've discovered is that anything that elevates the community, he and this organization are all in. And so I've asked him to come give you an official welcome. Can you please help me welcome the Bishop of Biceps, Mike Heyman, the man with the plan.
All right. Well, good morning. How's everybody doing today? Come on, turn to your neighbor and say, my, oh, my. You're the best looking thing I've seen all day. Some of you didn't do that. Turn to that person that was your second choice. Hey, no, we're so glad that you're here, and I just appreciate Julio. Can we put our hands together, show our love and appreciation for one of the great leaders in this community? I have the privilege of not only being his pastor, but being his friend. And when he talked about this event, immediately we said yes. Our heart as a church is to bring value to this community. And I don't know anybody who loves Baton Rouge more than Julio, or who has leveraged his influence to bring in the best of the best. And today's going to be a great day. You're going to hear from two of the foremost leaders in our country. The touch of God is on their life. And for us as a Healing Place Church family, it's an honor just to be able to create this environment for you. I think the best way for you to grow your business is to grow yourself. Can I have a good amen? And so today we're going to stretch. Today we're going to enlarge our capacity. You're going to hear some things today that are going to resonate. You may learn some things, hear some things that you haven't heard before. Or maybe today is a reminder of things that you already know, but the Holy Spirit's going to help you to activate those things personally and professionally. And so I would love to open us up in prayer. Can we all pray today? Let's all pray. Father, we thank you so much. This is the day that you have made. Lord, we will rejoice and be glad in it. Father, I thank you for all the planning and preparation that's been put into this moment. So, Lord, we lean in God, as students, as listeners, God, we lean in. Our desire is to grow. Our desire is to get better. Lord, when we know better, we do better. And God, our families improve, our business improves. God, this community improves, and Jesus is exalted. And so, Holy Spirit, I pray that you would move, God, in every session. God, thank you for the speakers that are here today. God, the wisdom that they bring. God, the partnership, God, the kingdom chemistry that's in this moment. And Lord, I pray that everything that's said and done will bring honor and glory to you. We love you. We thank you in Jesus' name. And everybody said, listen, make yourselves at home. Welcome to HPC. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. We appreciate it. So for those of you that may be here for the first time, today's event benefits a nonprofit. We didn't just want to elevate the community, but we also want to give back. And there's a nonprofit that's making a big difference in our community. It's called Empower 225. And their mission is to empower youth at risk from homelessness or dependency and to reach their highest potential through educational support, life training skills, career preparedness, housing, and mentorship. It's an amazing program having a huge impact in the 225 region. And I want you to check out this video to learn a little bit more about them.
Life was very rough for me. I moved to 8 different locations inside the state. My father, he stepped out of my life since I was 3 years old. I also found out later in life that my dad always lived around the corner from me, but he just never came to see me. He just never reached out. Once I turned 16, I became homeless. I didn't have no contact with my mom really. We really didn't talk like that. I think life really got even tougher for me than it was when I was younger, because when I got older, I started to realize and I started to understand my emotions, and it was really just unstable. Going through depression, I tried to kill myself 5 times. When I first entered the Anchor House, for me, I looked at it as a hope thing, that it could work out. Some things can change, but ultimately I looked at, I'm like, what do I do in this situation, and how do I progress from here?
I saw incredible potential in the room full of young men that were there. I saw DJ as one that probably had more upper end potential as far as just very sharp young man. And but at the time, he was probably the maddest in the room.
I met Guy. Jeff brought him in for a life lesson with the guys' fellowship, and my first take on him was just a rich guy bragging, just judging a book by its cover. But when I seen him come back and try to reach out and be involved, it changed my way of thinking of him.
What I love is the guy that I met that was so closed off. Now we can have conversations, we can talk, we hug. I mean, the kid, he glows now, you know, and we just want to make sure he doesn't stop.
One thing Empower did that I didn't have before is gave me a chance. That one chance led to me branching off and doing better things. A lot of us don't get that, and me having this chance allowed me to see a lot of different things and see my potential in areas that I didn't think were there.
There's no greater investment me and my wife have made than sowing money into Empower 225 and these other kids. And I can testify because I am physically involved. I'm not just a financial backer, but I'm also a backer of my time. And that's another thing I'd like to challenge both men and women. To take your eyes off yourself and truly, from a genuine place in your heart, put them on somebody else. Man, the return on investment. I've gotten more back than they've gotten. We all say that. It sounds like a line, but it's really the absolute truth.
It is so great when you're coming from a position that I've been through and you walk into a place of love. When you don't understand what family is and you walk into a place that displays nothing but family. You know, Empower will allow you to have that chance. Those chances that you didn't have back then, those opportunities that you lost, they're still here. I want to say thank you to Empower for giving me this opportunity. I will carry it with me wherever I go.
Hey, let's hear it up for Empower 225. You know, we believe there's an amazing bunch of youth in North Baton Rouge, and they just need somebody to believe in them and to invest in them. And so if you'd like a little bit more information, how, they need volunteers, training, some mentorship, even financial resources, they have a table in the back, and they can give you a little bit more information if you're looking to sow some good seed into some great soil. Two last quick items before we get started. One is that there's a card at most of your seats, or you can check out the screen. We've made it our mission to continue to build leaders, and so we now have our Fall Leadership Academy coming up, and so we're taking applications now. And also in the back of the card, last year we had a lot of clients in the community ask us about a selling academy, and so we launched one. We only do it once a year. It's coming up this spring. We have a selling academy, and I'm excited because I get to teach and facilitate part of that curriculum. We love sales and selling and connecting with people, and so if you're interested, you can check out the QR code there. Lastly, it's been mentioned, but I want to put an exclamation point on it. I love this community. We believe in its potential. In the midst of all the negative chatter that you hear about Louisiana or about our city, it's so important, right, to remind ourselves, right, why we live here, right, where we can go, and how each one of us can play a role in its transformation. And so I want you just to take a moment. Our team put together a quick little video just to remind you and I of why we call this place home. Check it out.
There is no place like Baton Rouge. This is a city where national championships are just another Saturday, where athletes become legends, remembered for generations, where holidays are synonymous with parades. This is a city that is becoming a national culinary destination, where crafting cocktails and plating dishes is an art, always offering new flavors to savor. In Baton Rouge, every corner is a canvas, every event has a soundtrack, and every purchase is a vote for your neighbor's dream. This is a city where culture thrives and creativity knows no bounds, where going for a walk means watching the sunset on the Mississippi River. This is a city where biking, boating, or fishing means a new adventure in the sportsman's paradise. Opportunity is woven into the fabric of our city. A thriving industrial corridor, a bustling port, a pioneering health district, and a capital that's etched in local and national history. This is a city of generosity, where making a difference is not just a choice, it's the expectation. And when disaster strikes, Baton Rouge doesn't back down. We're a city with a Navy, a force of compassion and resilience that stands strong in the face of adversity. There is no place like our home. This is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Our city is already one of a kind, and the best is yet to come.
And we do believe the best is yet to come. One of my sons 2 years ago, when he was a freshman in college, we were having a conversation at a restaurant with the waitress, and I was just encouraging her. She was putting herself through school at LSU. And when she walked off, I told her, I said, I believe the best is yet to come for you. And my son turned around to me, and he said, Dad, why are you always telling everybody the best is yet to come? Right? I said, that's a good question. And I said, because if you believe the best is behind you, your best days are behind you, they are. And if you believe the best days are ahead of you, they are, right? And we want to encourage everybody here. In the next couple of weeks and months, you're going to be hearing that there are various organizations around town that are mobilizing. And this is not an organization or a person, but I believe there's a people movement going on throughout our region of people that want to transform our state and city. And it takes every single person, every one of you in here is a leader. That's the reason you're here today, to engage in whatever the cause. Could be litter, could be education, maybe running for office and getting more involved. But the truth of the matter is that nothing happens unless all of us engage and get involved. And everybody here matters. So I want to encourage you, stay tuned and get involved. And finally, I'm going to ask everybody, make sure you put your phones on off or silent We want to get rid of all distractions. My hope is that you're going to lean in, be open to learn and grow for you and your team in the journey that we're on in ways that we've never thought about before. So now for our first speaker. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, I tried to bring her in and the schedules did not match up. But last year, we were at the same leadership summit, and I was able to secure her for today, so I'm really excited to have her here. She's deeply passionate about seeing people connect with their God-given purpose. She's the founder of the Collective Lab Mentorship Program. She's the author of 16 books and co-founder of Dare to Be Movement. She's committed her life to teach, train, and invest others. Ladies and gentlemen, from England, please help me welcome Charlotte Gambill. Come on, Charlotte.
Thank you, Fred. Hello. I'm sure you can do better than that. Hello. So good to be with you in Baton Rouge. I know I don't sound like you. I don't speak like you, okay? I have an English accent. Actually, I don't have an accent. Y'all have an accent, okay? I speak English. You speak a version of my language. But the good news for you is I married an American, so I'm bilingual. I understand you all completely. And if I say a word today and you're like, that is not the right word, I just need to let you know, yes, it is. It began at my side of the ocean, and then it came over the ocean, and you kind of messed it up a little. You made words up like y'all. You do know that's not a word, right? That's you and all shoved together. Okay, but it's okay. We're going to figure it out. But I am so thankful to be here and have the opportunity to speak to you, to invest in you, to pour my life and what I've gained in wisdom in my journey into you. I hope something I say today helps you personally in your leadership, and beyond that, helps the people underneath your leadership be led in a way that this is going to be practical and outworked in your company and corporation. I'm a passionate person when it comes to leadership. I think everything rises and falls on leadership. And I was so excited and honored when I was invited to have this opportunity to come and be with you today. Because the truth is, the answer for this community sits in this room. It's the ability and it's the skill and it's the intentionality of you as a man or as a woman, as a leader in your sphere of life that will lift this place and lift the surrounding regions because of your commitment to being great leaders. And I think we really have to get back to redefining what leadership is. I think a lot of people are confused about what actually leadership is. And today I want to help redefine or bring the definition back on the table of what I believe it really looks like to be a great leader. To be a leader that actually will be here for longevity, not be here for a moment. We live in a culture where it seems that you can be a leader just by having people click a button that follows you on social media. You have a lot of followers, you must be a leader. Well, the truth is, you and I have probably met some of those people that have a lot of followers, and after a few moments, you realize I have no idea what they are following because you have no idea where you are going, right? You can be an influencer on social media, and people say you have influence, but I've met a lot of influencers that don't have that much influence in the world around them. And I think we have to get back to understanding that in a world that is seeking often a platform, we need to understand what it really takes to lead in a place where we go to a new level and have elevation. When my children were younger, we took them to Disney World. We paid a lot of money to that mouse to stand in long lines all day in the heat. I think it was a brilliant, genius idea that two mice had. But we were in Disney, and our son was really little, and he was going through the stage where he just, everywhere Mum went, he wanted to go. So he was like Velcro child. He'd be like attached to my leg. I couldn't get rid of him around the park. And we got to this one particular ride that his older sibling, my daughter, wanted to ride. And because Mum was going on the ride, my son wanted to ride. Well, the ride was the Tower of Terror. Well, when you're 3, you don't know what the Tower of Terror means. You just want to go with mom. And so I had what I thought was a genius idea. I said to my husband, it's okay, I'll just let him come in the line with me. Because I know when we get to the point to get on the ride, the employee at Disney is going to make me put this child down. They're going to measure this child, and they're going to be the one that is the bearer of bad news and let my child know there's no way you can ride this because you're too short. This was my great plan. And so we got to where the ride and the measuring stick was, and they asked me to put my son down. I put my son down to be measured, but that day I failed to remember that I had mohawked his hair up very high. I had put gel in, and so he had great mohawk. He was looking awesome, but the Disney employee didn't care to measure him from his actual head. They measured him from his mohawk. And his artificial height qualified him for a ride that he was not ready to experience. We got on the ride, the doors shut, the lift shaft went black, and my kids started screaming. And every parent in there was judging me as a mother. Who brings a 3-year-old on the Tower of Terror, right? When we left the park, he was still traumatized. And the funny thing was, a few years later, we went back to the park and he was tall enough to ride the ride, but he didn't want to go anywhere near it for the next 5 years. Why? Because he had an experience that he thought he was ready for. But his artificial height meant that he actually wasn't ready for the experience he was about to have. And now it's delayed his progress in his own enjoyment of something that now he qualifies for. And I believe in leadership, we have to be so careful that we're using the right measuring stick. Because there's a lot of people that I have found that look the part, that sound the part, but actually when you measure them with what it is that we need, the integrity, the wisdom, the skill, the ability, the patience, the perseverance, the things that you know and I know are the main qualifications to actually make it in leadership. We get impressed by a CV or we get impressed by a reference, but if the reference and the CV are the gel in their hair and the artificial height, when we put the badge on them or give them the office in our company, we're going to find they were not ready to handle that responsibility. So we've got to get back to measuring leadership in a way that accounts for what really matters. And today I want to talk to you about 2 different types of approaches to leadership. This whole day, the title over it is to elevate your leadership. And so with that thought in mind, I want to ask you today, are you a climber or are you a Sherpa? I'm going to explain the difference in those 2 things to you today because I believe we are in desperate need for more Sherpas in the business world, in the leadership zones of our lives and community. We're in desperate need for more Sherpas to be found and to be empowered because we have a lot of climbers, and climbers may get to the summit, but they won't stay there for very long. Climbers may go after achievements and trinkets and trophies, but after the trinket and the trophy, there is still a job that needs to be done. And today I want to ask you, do you want longevity or do you want visibility? And at times you may have both, but if your main aim in life is to get higher for visibility's sake, is to attain another badge or another award for your credibility's sake, then your time probably is limited in the leadership that actually is available to you that could go a lot further if you'd understand and have the mindset of a Sherpa. Mount Everest is known to all of us. It is known because it's that summit, it's that elevation that any budding climber, anybody that wants to make a name for themselves will say, I'm going to one day climb that mountain. It is impressive. If you have climbed Mount Everest, it gives you credibility in the circle of climbers that you may be amongst. And every year, many people are driven to go and climb that mountain. The challenge excites them and their ego invites them. For climbers, the summit is the attaining of a trophy. It's potentially fame and fortune. It maybe will lead to a book deal and interviews. So they want to go up the mountain. And you and I may know of famous climbers that have made the summit of Mount Everest. For us in England, we all know of Ralph Fiennes. He was an Everest climber that became famous in our part of the world. You will have the equivalent here in the US of A. But for every climber that makes it to the top of the mountain once, there's a whole community of people called the Sherpas. This is the name that's given to those that live in the Himalayan region. It's the name that means people of the East, but the name doesn't refer just to their location, it also refers to their vocation. For every one climber that makes it to the top of Mount Everest, there are Sherpas that you don't know the name of. You've never seen them in a magazine. You've never seen them write the book or be on a TV interview, but they are Sherpas that help the climbers get up the mountain. And for the one time that the famous, successful explorer gets to the summit, these guys go up not just once, they go up once a year, and many of them have done it for 20 plus years. We have a world filled with people who will tell us all about the Everest they conquered, but then there are Sherpas who are have seen it 1,000 times and have an expertise that we are desperately in need of. You can't rebuild a city with just a budding climber. You need Sherpas who understand how the city works, the community works, how the people work. You can't just build a business with some person that has a credential that they wave at you to impress you. You need someone who has integrity and depth and is willing to do the journey just like these Sherpas are. So I want you to think about your life and the elevation you are seeking. And I want you to think about your company, your corporation, and those that you are leading, and ask the question, do I have a bunch of climbers? Or in here, are there any Sherpas? How do you know the difference? In a world of corporate climbers, how do you find those committed Sherpas? Well, let me give you a few things that differentiate between the Sherpa and the climber. Number one, Sherpas live where climbers visit. Right? That climber is visiting Everest. But the Sherpa, he lives on the mountain. This is his domain. This is his territory. This is where he does life every single day. And when it comes to leadership, you are either someone who becomes a leader because someone gave you a badge, and so now I have a job, and so now I'm a leader. Or you're someone who lives with the mindset of a leader, with the heart of a leader, with the wisdom of a leader. This is territory where you reside, not territory where you visit. If you are a Sherpa versus a climber, you will notice that with climbers, often their altitude begins to change their attitude. It's okay, you can laugh because you all have someone right now you're thinking of who you have promoted because they wanted to be promoted. And you maybe thought they were a Sherpa, and you are realizing they are a climber. Why? Because with the elevation, there has been a revelation. With the new altitude, there has become a very surprising attitude. And now you feel like you are managing what you actually put this monster into a position that you're like, how do I get them back down the mountain? Because now I've over-empowered them, because the altitude is affecting their attitude. They are walking differently around the office. They are swaggering to the water cooler in a way that they didn't swagger before they had the corner office. And you realize, man, this is a climber. And for them, they've just attained a position. But what I need is a Sherpa who, when they are at a different altitude, it doesn't change their attitude. They're not up when they're applauded and down when they are ignored. Their attitude is acclimatized to the environment of leadership that I'm looking for. As leaders, we have to understand that if the altitude changes our attitude, we will be up when it's good and we will be down when it's not. And if you are in business, you all know there are days when it's going to be up and you're riding high, and days when it's not going to be so up and you are down low. And if your attitude is affected by the roller coaster of the economy and of business, then you are probably more of a climber than you are a Sherpa. In the actual natural, Sherpas that are from the Himalayan region, check this out. They actually have, it is biologically proven and tested, they actually have different DNA than another human being. Sherpas' physiology is different than yours and mine when they did tests, because they wondered, why can these people keep climbing and living at such a high altitude with no need for extra oxygen? What is it about them that is able to breathe where other people are struggling to breathe? How can they keep focus at a height where many people find they lose focus? And so when they did some biological tests, they found that they had an ability to produce more of the oxygen in their body through having more red blood cells, that they actually physically were made in a way that helped them live at a higher altitude. Let me tell you, you need people in your organization who can breathe at a higher altitude, who in the stress and in the testing seasons that you will go through don't lose their head or lose their mind or go on a power trip, but are a Sherpa who can live and breathe and carry on leading, because this is where they are living, not where they are visiting. If the altitude is making you crazy, it's because you are visiting a place that you need to start living in. Have you ever watched an awards ceremony, like a Academy Awards ceremony or a music awards ceremony? You can always tell the brand new pop stars in the room, right? Like this is the moment that they have been living for, and they're so excited, and they're at every photo op, and they're like buzzing around the room, and then you pan the camera across, and there's Bono from U2, looking completely bored, completely chilled out, like he's seen it 1,000 times. He's been here 1,000 times. Even though his name's in the hat for winning the prize, it will make no difference to him. He will go home and be the Bono he was before he got the award. Why? Because he's a Sherpa of that environment. He's been around long enough to see the shooting star shoot and then fall. And he understands, if I'm going to live at this level, it requires a different way of acting, speaking, and planning. Sherpas behave like residents, where climbers behave like renters. We have a property in Florida, and one of the things that is always a bone of contention, and thank the Lord I'm not there for any of these meetings, but if you are part of a HOA, God bless you. But we don't have these things in England. I'm like, what is a HOA? It's a whole lot of trouble if you ask me. But we pay our dues and we're not always there, and we get sent the minutes of the meeting. I said to my husband, can you please tell them to stop sending us the minutes of the meeting, because they're stressing me out and I'm just reading them. Like, it's like the fights and the bust-ups, and like at one of the meetings, I think they had to physically restrain someone from actually trying to hit somebody. And the main tension is this: there are those that are residents in the neighborhood, and those that have bought a property as a second property, as an investment, that are renters. And the residents and the renters do not agree on many things. Why? Because renters treat the area different than a resident. And you in your corporation and you in your way of leading, you need to be looking for who is treating this business like a renter. You know, when climbers go up Mount Everest, It tells you when you study it that Sherpas will spend huge amounts of time going up the mountain, not to get to the top, not to climb it, but literally going up the mountain to collect trash. Apparently, there are tons and tons of trash on Mount Everest left every single year, not by a Sherpa, but by a climber. Why? Because their mindset is, I'm here to get out of this what I came for, and I don't really care. Because when I got what I came for, I don't care about this mountain. I don't care about the trash I leave on it. I don't care about the litter I'm putting down on it. And you know, in this community, just like you heard a moment ago, this is your home. This is your town. This is where you've planted your business. This is where you want to make a difference. And it's infuriating when a renter comes to town, as it were, with their big idea and leaves all their trash behind, that now you guys, because you live here, have to go and pick up the debris of, because they came into town with a conquering the summit mindset rather than being a resident in the place where you all have to do life and build business. You need more residents in your leadership. Residents take care of things. Residents know when to put the trash out and when to bring it in. Residents don't park where they should not park. Residents are polite and take care of the community and look after the shared resources. But renters, they're just here for a good time. And in our leadership and in my leadership over the long time that I've been leading many different forums, I have had staff come through that were so promising and had so much potential, but the thing that made them no use for the future was they had a renter mentality. They wanted to use the company and use the business to get to the next summit that was ahead of them, and so we were simply a stepping stone for the thing that they thought was going to be bigger and greater. Be aware of the difference between a Sherpa and a climber. A Sherpa is invested, for they live here. A renter is visiting to make a name for themselves. And the other things that Sherpas do that I believe if you want to be a great leader, you must learn to do, is Sherpas understand how to manage capacity, because they need to ensure longevity. I've taught leader settings all around the world, sat with leadership roundtables, gone in and trained staff and teams for multiple years now. And I am amazed how many times I'll meet great leaders that don't understand they must manage their capacity. Great leaders who are burnt out, stressed out, marriages are falling apart, kids are dysfunctional, home life is a hot mess. But I'm leading, I'm climbing. Yep, I know you're leading and I know you're climbing, but you know what? You need to make sure that in your leading and your climbing, you don't end up a lonely person on the side of this mountain by yourself. Because capacity has been misused and mismanaged. I have been with my husband for 32 years. We have kids that are in their 20s. I've been leading for 30 years. I'll be 51 this year. I started communicating publicly when I was 19. But in that commitment to all the things that I've ended up doing, there's been a commitment beyond the yes to a speaking or yes to a training. The commitment's been to my family, to my marriage, to our community, to the things that we say, if this isn't working, then this is fake. If I can't lead here, how in the world can I lead here? And a lot of times there's a lot of leadership that just fails to understand capacity. Listen, capacity speaks to both your potential and your limitation, right? Capacity speaks about what you can do, but it also speaks about what you can't do. It's like a fuel gauge on your life. It's like the gas canister in your life. It has a point that says, don't fill me past this point. And then it has a point that says, don't let it get below this line. There is a capacity for this tank. And I think great leaders have an understanding of capacity that means that they make it for the long haul. I remember when I first spoke publicly outside of my own local setting. I'm from a small town in England, in an area of England called Yorkshire, and we talk like this in Yorkshire, and so you should be very glad I'm not having my Yorkshire accent, because you won't understand a word I was saying, and so that's more what people sound like from where I come from. But at the time, I was speaking to maybe 100, 200 people just inside this community in the UK, and I was sent an invitation to go and speak at an event. It's the only time I'd ever received an invitation outside of a friend that was like, hey, can you come help me out? And this invitation was to speak in Australia. I went from a room of 200 people speaking, found myself on an aeroplane, freaking out with an identity crisis on the journey, on the way over, thinking, they've made a mistake. They've made a mistake. Why in the world have they asked this English chick to speak at this leadership conference? I remember getting up and standing on a platform like this, only the arena had 65,000 people in it. Little girl from Yorkshire in her 20s, standing on a leadership platform with 65,000. I mean, if you're going to have a confidence crisis, that's going to do it for you, right? I'm either a climber or I'm a Sherpa, I'm about to find out. But I remember afterwards going in a back room, and I'm sorry to say it was an American. I love y'all, nothing personal. But there was an American guy there, and he was in leadership, and he came up to me. He's like, wow, that was amazing. That was awesome. Okay, so what I want you to know is you're really hot right now. I mean, whew, really hot. Everybody's talking. Everybody wants you to come to their events. Like this is good. And my husband's just stood back here, and I'm an introvert. I feel like when you say that, it's like going to an AA meeting. Hello, my name is Charlotte, and I'm an introvert. And so even this whole thing doesn't make sense, but when you're called to do it, you're called to do it, and you get over it. When you're a Sherpa, you're a Sherpa. When you want the microphone, it's probably when you shouldn't have the microphone. That's a side note. But anyway, and this guy was going on, you're hot right now, and you should do this, you should get marketing, you should get a plan, and you should talk to these people. And you know when sometimes you speak, but your brain's not yet put the filter in to help you not say what you probably shouldn't say? Well, it was one of those moments, and it just came out my mouth, and I just said, sir, and he stopped talking. I said, I intend to be hot for the rest of my life, so I'm good. Thank you very much. And my husband was like, she actually just said that out loud. And what I was trying to communicate was I felt this pressure coming on me. Man, you should maximize your moment. Man, you should get all these people. Man, you should speak everywhere at everything. Man, it's going to make you famous. But the Sherpa inside me was like, listen, I don't intend to be around for 5 minutes. I intend to be around for 50 plus years. And if I let you choose my capacity, I'm going to burn out. I'm going to do things that I can't handle in this season of my life. I had a new baby at that time. I'm like, I have a lot going on, people. I have a baby to raise, as well as a job to do, as well as a marriage. And I want to say to some of you need to understand that some of the opportunities, you know what? If they're for you, they'll come back round to you. But it's not worth wasting your capacity on things that you're going to suffer because of later in your life. Listen to this line and ask yourself this question, because this is what I ask myself all the time. Is my capacity filled with my ability or my availability? Some of you are just really available because you don't want to let anyone down. So when they ask you to sit on the committee or come to the meeting or will you speak at this or will you do that, it feeds a little of your ego. And so your answer typically is yes, but you have to understand if you're filling your capacity with your availability, you're not filling it with your ability. There's lots of things I could do, but there's only a few things I should do, because those are the things that I am good at. Those are the things that I'm designed to do. I get asked to attend a lot of things, but my answer is no. Not because I think I'm better than, or I think, I can do better, but because I understand this is not the best use of my ability. In our neighborhood in Florida, there is a pool that the community share. On the left, there is the swimming pool that all the families use. And on the right, they have built a lap pool. Next to the lap pool, there is a sign that lets you know the capacity of the lap pool. And underneath the capacity of the lap pool, it has in big letters, in case you missed it, no pool floats allowed. It could feel like our HOA are a little bit of a killjoy, right? Like, really? I mean, get a life. Why can't we put a pool float in the pool? That's what pools are for. But what they're trying to do is protect the pool from being used in a way that it was not built to be used. And I swim laps. So when I get in the lap pool, I get aggravated that some family has decided to camp by the lap pool for the day with all of their balls and toys and pool floats and noodles, and they're in the way. And I have to say every 5 minutes, excuse me, could you move your kid out the lap lane? Excuse me, do you mind getting your float out the lap lane? And they look at me like I'm the one with a problem. And I'm like, it's a lap pool. What about this? Don't you understand? There's the family pool. Move yourselves along. And I came to a point in my life where I realized, man, I'm filling the lap pool, my ability, with pool floats. I'm literally in meetings, and I would sit in meetings with this thought in my mind, why am I in this meeting? I'm just like a pool float. Like literally I'd be sat about meetings about something to do with an event, and I'm thinking, why am I in here? This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in here because so-and-so said I should be in here. I'm in here because it keeps so-and-so happy that I'm here, but I should be planning, and I should be doing the thing that I'm on the planet to do. And when you realize that, you get radical with decisions about your time, your energy, and your future. I was running a conference in England that was known all over the UK. I mean, people don't go to conferences in England like they do in America. Okay, like it's just not a thing. But I was running a conference that I started with 3 people, and now it was 10,000 people in an arena, and everybody thought it was awesome. And I just woke up one morning and I was like, it's a pool float. It was good for a season, but now it's not. Now I'm using this conference, it's taking so much time, so much money, so much energy, so much of my thought process, and yet it's a pool float for me now. When I started it, it wasn't. I was beginning to carve a path that wasn't carved in our country. But now other people had their own version of the event, and I was like, we're good. But in order to make that decision, you're gonna have to have a Sherpa mindset. You're going to have to realize, you know what? It doesn't mean I lose my identity because I lose a badge or a label or an event. If you're a Sherpa, you still have a job to do. But when you realize I don't want to fill my capacity with my availability, it means that you go through seasons that are very different. See, some of you are frightened to say no to that thing that's an opportunity. Even though you know it's not really the best use of your time, you're frightened to say no because what if nothing else comes along? And it's in those moments where we feel there's a vacuum that we often drift back to pool floats. Hello. Some of you got pool float relationships. And you know you need to stick a pin in it because that thing is overinflated. That thing is sucking you dry. That thing is taking up all of your time and energy and effort. But we feel this wrong attachment to a pool float that actually you've got to say, no, this was built for laps. And I can't get the laps done in my business while this pool float is in the middle of the lap lane. Great leadership understands that capacity must be filled with our ability. Is your capacity filled with your amenability rather than your responsibility? My sister lives in Switzerland, and so we go there often. And when you're in Switzerland, you can't go anywhere for any amount of time without eventually going up some incline. I mean, everything is uphill. And so we would do a lot of walking and climbing with our families, and I noticed that when we were at the bottom of the mountain, everyone's chatting about what we're going to eat tonight, where we're going to go, what we're going to do. Everyone's having lots of conversation. But the more we went up, the more we got elevated, the less the conversation was happening. There was a lot less chatter the higher we went. Why? Because the air was getting thinner. And so nobody wanted to waste their words on something that didn't matter this way up the mountain. And I realized in my leadership, I was having a lot of conversations that was taking so much energy and effort and oxygen out of my lungs about things that just don't matter. I'm trying to get up the mountain. I'm trying to help you get up the mountain. And the air is got thinner. And so no, we're not going to talk about what happened last month when your feelings were offended and you're upset about what so-and-so next to you in the office said about so-and-so in the other office next to you. And I know it matters. And maybe down at base camp, you can have that conversation. But I don't have the air up here to talk about what we've already talked about. Sherpas understand when the air gets thinner, the conversations get more filtered. Where have you got people taking too much time, too much of your resource, too much of your energy, who have no intention of helping you get to your capacity? Because they're a climber and they're just after the summit for themselves. Climbers manage what they speak, they manage who they take. You know, Sherpa doesn't just, if you were to rock up today to Mount Everest, sir, I'm sure you're very fit, I'm sure you're very healthy. I'm just picking on you because you're right in front of me. And if you were just to rock up to Mount Everest this afternoon and be like, hey everyone, just completely feel like this is the year that I'm gonna go up Everest, who's with me? Sherpa's gonna look at you and say, sir, what was the last mountain you climbed? Sir, do you know how to survive at that altitude? Sir, what is it that you brought with you in your bags? We are not carrying that stuff up here. If we take you up here because we want to be amenable, you're going to be my responsibility when we get higher up. And I'm going to be responsible for your well-being, and I'm going to have said yes to take you somewhere you have no business of being right now. I suggest you come back in a few years' time, after you've climbed a few more mountains, and after you've built up the stamina and built up the strength, and then maybe we'll go up the mountain together. But we have people in businesses that I just say, yeah, I'll take you up. And then halfway up, you're like, what a nightmare. I need to get rid of them. Can I push them off the mountain? Will anybody know? It's just another body. Like maybe they'll just think they died climbing, not that they died because I pushed them. You know what I'm talking about? I'm just being real. Don't sit here pretending everyone in your company makes you feel like flutters in your heart and bluebirds singing in your ears. You got to manage what you carry. I want to say to some of you are just exhausted. Can we just be real for a minute? I just decided we're friends, whether you like it or not, and so when we're friends, I'm just real. Some of you are exhausted. Your professional self, the way you conduct yourself, the way you are with the people around you, the way that you have mingled in this room and networked in this room, no one would have a clue. But when that young man on that screen a few moments ago talked about the absolute pit of despair he was in, something inside you resonated. Your journey is not his journey, but your anxiety is real. Your depression is real. You're trying to put on the front of a successful climber, yet on the inside of you, you're exhausted and not sure you can even get up the next phase of elevation for your business or for your community. And when you get to that place, you have to do some assessment and ask yourself, did I pack my bags incorrectly? Am I trying to pull something up the mountain that I should have never pulled up? Am I trying to drag something with me that I should have never dragged with me? Am I trying to be a climber before I've even learned how to be a Sherpa? Maybe I need to come down a little bit, regulate my breathing, get control of my calendar. See, your calendar is a reflection of your priorities. And your priorities are a reflection of your mindset. So if your calendar is keeping people happy all the time, it tells me your mindset is that you're people-pleasing to be successful. And sometimes we have to take a step back and be honest with ourselves man, I know I'm a Sherpa, and I don't know y'all. See, I used your language. I don't know y'all. I don't know y'all, but I want you to be here. 10 years' time, 20 years' time, 30 years' time. I want your marriage to succeed. I want your kids to actually think you're a nice human being. I want you to enjoy your life, not just endure your life. And the best way I can tell you that is become a Sherpa. Stop trying to be a climber. Stop trying to win accolades and awards that nobody even cares about when they're going up the mountain, but instead begin to live at a level where you regulate your breathing, where you understand the job that is yours, that you're entrusted with, where you're not trying to be hot every 5 minutes because you're going to be around for the next 50 years. Become a Sherpa in your heart and in your mind, and you will not compromise your capacity for the sake of popularity. And finally, y'all good? Sure? Didn't lose any of you? Sherpas secure poles where climbers secure podiums. A Sherpa was interviewed when he was taking a bunch of climbers up the mountain, which he'd done multiple times over. And the journalist asked him a question. He said, "What's the difference between you and the climber?" And this is what the Sherpa said. He said, "While his vanity and ego are giving interviews right now, I'm securing poles so we don't fall off on the way down." The Sherpa wasn't interested in the visibility. He was interested in taking care of the group that he was leading in the forthcoming adversity. We live in a self-driven culture. Can I get a good amen? I mean, it makes me sick to my stomach because I'm like, it's a recipe for disaster in every way. Politically, economically, financially, corporately. When self is driving and flesh is driving, we're all in trouble. And I just think there's a whole generation of leaders who've had some pretty poor role models. So they think it's all about getting to the top. And in the scramble to get to the top, no one's taking the time to secure poles. Because if you've been around for longer than 5 minutes, in any capacity as a leader, you all know adversity is coming, right? You all know it's coming. And we need leadership that knows, because adversity is coming, I'm going to put a pole in the ground here. I'm going to put a pole in the ground that will give people a sense of bearing, give people a sense of attachment, give people a sense of being grounded, so that when the storm hits, there's something to hold on to. If you are a Sherpa, then you need to secure, as it were, poles in your team and in your leadership of the people around you. Securing poles is not sexy. There, I said it, it's not. It's way more sexier doing the interview or doing the whatever it is that the climber's doing in that moment. But we need to make sure that people don't fall off the mountain. We need to make sure a whole generation doesn't end up chasing ego and ambition and we're left with no one to lead the future. We need Sherpas to say, here are some poles that I have stuck in the ground. Sherpas understand in every part of my pain there is a pole of principle. And some of you have been through great leadership pain. Let's just be honest. Anybody been through leadership pain? Or you all just liar, pants on fire? Someone stab you in the back? Someone betray you? Someone financially rip you off? Someone say stuff about you that wasn't true? Someone get on social media and do some keyboard warrior stuff? You know, like we've all had our fill of things that can happen to us in leadership because there's a target on you. But a great leader in those moments extracts from the pain the pole, the principle, and shoves it in the ground so that the next person that faces the adversity you faced has something to secure themselves to. And you know what? No one may have done it for you. I remember when I started stepping out and leading, I was the only female. I was always in a room full of men. And half the time the men would be like, why are you up there instead of me? I'm like, I don't know, sir. It's not my problem. Like, I don't know. I just am. But I felt it. I felt the opposition because of my gender. I felt the opposition because of my age. I felt the opposition, but I realized when I get up, it's not my age or my gender. It's my Sherpa experience that's going to help the people in this room. If I don't have anything to say, I need to sit down. But if I have a pole that I can put in the ground to help you with your adversity, then I'm going to put it in the ground. And we need more leaders that secure poles rather than securing podiums. Some of you been through pain. I'll end with this story. My husband decided that we should go skiing. And I was not as convinced. He grew up skiing, loved skiing. Me, I'm from England, we don't ski much. And so we went skiing. We took our kids, and on the first day, the kids got it just like that. And so they were having the best time, and I overheard them say to Dad, "Dad, Mum is like holding us all back." Like, I was like, thank you very much. So the next day I was like, you know what, guys, you all go off and have a great day. I'll be good. And so off they went. But what I didn't tell them was I was going to go beat that mountain. So I'm not very favorable when it comes to heights. I don't really like heights. So I was going to combat my fear of heights and also my fear of skis. And so I went up to the top of the mountain, got in the cable car. I was already freaking out. Anxiety is like pounding. I put the skis on. There's barely any snow. They've made fake snow because it's so icy. I clip the skis on, and literally I'm at the top of the mountain like, okay, I can do this. I can't do this. Suddenly I'm out of control. And I realize in that moment, pain is in my future. I can't avoid it. There's nothing I can do about it. There is going to be pain in my future. But as I came around the corner, the realization got even worse because there was a ski school of 5-year-olds. And they were all holding each other's poles, doing a huge snowplow across the mountain. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And in that moment, I realized what no one has ever taught me that I want to pass on to you in my final thought. You can't avoid pain, but you can pick your pain. To the left, I saw there was a bunch of 5-year-olds that were gathered in front of a pile of snow, and they were just hanging out. To the right, there was 2 kids whose poles had dropped, and so there was a gap between them. And in that moment, I realized I can go left and soften the blow and take out probably 6 5-year-olds. Or I can go right through the gap, and I'm not sure what's going to happen at the other side of that gap, but I'm not going to take anybody else out. And in that moment, I realized I can either go left and create collateral damage, or I can go right and endure a bit of personal pain. Sherpas go right. Climbers go left. Well, I'm going to take someone else down with me. Well, I'm going to make sure I say my side of the story. Well, I'm going to make sure everybody knows that I was hurt too. I'm going to make sure that I rat out on this company. I'm going to make sure that I put round town what you all did to me. It's collateral damage, and it's immaturity in its finest hour. And you know what? It can take people's lives out, and it damages people that didn't even need to know. And I'm just hoping for a better day where we can have an elevated type of leadership, where actually we understand, first of all, the true prize of leadership. It is not a podium. It is not an award, though you may get those things. But it's learning how to live on the mountain, not just conquer the mountain, to breathe a different air, to communicate in a way that gives people poles instead of prizes, and to understand how to navigate your capacity so that you're not burnt out 5 years from now. So your marriage is not a casualty of a bad capacity call. And that we would be the kind of leaders who don't leave behind us collateral damage, but actually have a few scars from our journey that we use to teach a generation how to lead better and more eloquently. Thank you.
Let's hear it up for Charlotte. She's amazing. I've had the privilege of listening to her at least 6 times over the last decade, and every time brings value and authenticity. We're going to keep this thing rolling. It's my pleasure now to introduce our next speaker. And John Gordon is a husband, a father, and an author. His best-selling books and talks have inspired millions of readers and audiences around the world. He's 15 times New York Times best-selling author. Some of the books many of us in this room are familiar with: The Energy Bus, The Carpenter, Training Camp, The Power of Positive Leadership, The Power of Positive Team, and his latest book, The One Truth. When he's not running through airports and speaking in businesses, hospitals or schools, you can find him playing pickleball. You know he's getting older. And taking long walks, which are when he gets most of his ideas. We brought John in the very first year and really thought about bringing him back. He's got a lot of new, fresh content. And so can we give a warm Baton Rouge welcome to John Gordon, the man.
Julio is just a great friend, and he's someone who has just had a huge impact on my life. By bringing me here to Baton Rouge, I met so many incredible people because of him, and relationships that will last a lifetime are the result of this man, his leadership, his impact. So I just want to give him a hand right now and just honor him. Let's give him a hand. We also have our national championship winning coach here today from LSU baseball, Jay Johnson. Let's give him a hand right now for being here and his leadership. And let's give another hand for Charlotte for an amazing talk that she just gave. That was incredible. Yeah, I came here in 2019, right before COVID. Not much has happened since. But came here to this community and just fell in love and just was so welcomed by so many incredible people here and just had such a phenomenal experience. I just really feel like I'm part of the family here. Might have some Cajun in me, I think, but just really special to be a part of this community and be invited back. It's always nice when you're invited back. So thank you for that, Julio, for bringing me back and allowing me to share here with you all today. You know, when you speak about positivity like I do, and you write books on positivity, people think that you're gonna be this naturally positive person. But the truth is, I'm not. I grew up in Long Island, New York. Both my biological parents were Jewish. I was born with anxiety. My mom remarried my dad when I was 5, and he was my stepfather, but I called him dad because he really impacted my life in so many ways. He's my dad. And he raised me. He was Italian, so I grew up in a Jewish Italian family. A lot of food, a lot of guilt. A lot of wine, a lot of whining. My mom was this Jewish mom, and she wanted the son the doctor, the son the lawyer. My brother goes to Johns Hopkins pre-med. I go to Cornell University pre-law. So she's telling everyone, oh, my son the doctor, my son the lawyer. My brother came out an actor. I came out a bartender. Dad, New York City police officer, undercover narcotics. He was shot a few times. He wasn't very positive, my dad. A very loving man, but one of the most negative guys on the planet. You would get up in the morning, you'd say, good morning, Dad. He'd say, what's so good about it? My dad was Al Bundy before Al Bundy was Al Bundy. I just realized many of you have no idea who Al Bundy is. Here's my dad. My brother and I are teenagers talking about our future, our hopes and dreams as teenagers. And our dad's like, yeah, I can see when you guys are older, the law firm of useless and useless. And when I started speaking, my dad said, I can't believe people actually pay you to speak. When you're a kid, we paid you to shut up. I thought that was funnier than you all did, obviously. So growing up in that family, I really struggled with negativity. I really struggled with anxiety and depression and fear and stress in my life. And as a Division I athlete, I never felt like I lived up to what I could be, and always just struggled mentally. A lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of depression. And then in my late 20s, early 30s, my wife had enough of my negativity. She said, I love you, but I'm not gonna spend my life with someone who makes me so miserable. You're negative all the time. You're blaming me for why you haven't lived up to your potential, like it's my fault. And I was blaming her. I was being a jerk. And she had enough of my negativity. She was about to leave. And I had to change, or else she was literally gonna walk out the door. And so I began this journey of working to become a more positive person. And I had hated who I had become. I did not like who I had become. I did not like the stress and fear that I was living in. I did not like who I ultimately, the kind of leadership that I was displaying in my household. I wasn't abusive, but I was just not very positive. And that began this journey of working to become a more positive person. And so I started to research all the ways that I could be more positive. And this was during the emerging field of positive psychology. And so I read that you can't be stressed and thankful at the same time. So I began taking these walks of gratitude every day. And while I was walking, I would just say what I was thankful for. And again, since you can't be stressed and thankful, you're flooding your body and brain with these positive emotions that uplift you rather than the stress hormones that slowly drain you. And then over time, by doing this, I literally started to notice a difference. I literally started to feel more positive from the inside out. My wife noticed a difference. And so I remember saying, what am I born to do? Like, why am I here? And writing and speaking came to me in that moment. Literally just came to me. Okay, I'm gonna write and speak. What am I gonna write and speak about? Well, ways to be more positive. So I began this positive tip newsletter I started sending out. It was a weekly positive tip, and I started sending it out. And I had 5 subscribers to my newsletter. My mother, my brother, my best friend from college, they would get in that newsletter whether they liked it or not. And people started sharing this newsletter around. And that's what actually led me to start writing these books that I began writing. And I'll never forget just the journey of going, okay, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna make a difference. Somehow, some way, I'm gonna go do this work. Because I was so miserable focused on myself. And I realized that I wanted to make my life about others. How can I help others get better? How can I help others improve on this journey of life? And that's what motivated me to write. It's what motivated the newsletter. It's what motivated these books. And I'll never forget Jack Del Rio reading the book, Jacksonville Jaguars coach, and he read my book, The Energy Bus, and he invited me to speak to his team. First time ever speaking to a team, a pro team, college team, high school team. That was the first team I ever spoke to. And I went in there and I spoke about the energy bus, and they really resonated with it. I was like, okay, maybe I have something here that can make a difference. Maybe I have something that can actually impact people with this message and this work. And now years later, working with all these teams and organizations and businesses and schools, I've realized that positivity really is the competitive advantage. It's not just a nice way to lead. It's not just a nice way to work. It's the ultimate way if we want to have success. Would you agree with that? If you don't believe it, research shows that positive leaders are better able to garner the support of their team and move them in the right direction. We know that positive teams outperform negative teams. We know that being positive doesn't just make you better, it makes everyone around you better. I want you to turn to your neighbors right now and just say, I am glad you're here today. We need a little positive energy in this room right now. Do it again to the next person. Now, this is not about Pollyanna positive. It's not about seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. It's knowing that you have the power to overcome the thorns. It's not about ignoring reality. It's okay to say this stinks. It's about maintaining optimism, belief, and faith in order to create a better reality. So how do we activate this? If it's a competitive advantage, how do we activate this positivity in our life, in our work, in our leadership, in our team? And I always say it starts with culture. Culture is not just one thing, culture is everything. Culture is not just one person, culture is everyone. Everyone creates your culture. And people often ask me, like, how would you define culture, John? Here's the definition. It's the living, breathing essence of what an organization values, believes, thinks, says, and does. And culture is not static, it's dynamic. So every day you are creating your culture by what you believe and think and value, say, and do. So it doesn't matter what your culture was like last year, even yesterday. What are we doing today to create a great culture? How are we reinforcing it? And a big part of creating a great culture is to know what you stand for. Because once you know what you stand for, every decision you make is easy. Working with the Rams and Sean McVay, since he got the job at 30 years old, I was meeting with him for 6 hours, and we talked about his culture and the kind of culture he wanted to create with the Rams. And we went over his core values. We went over his vision, his mission, and really defined it. And one of those core values was we, not me. We, not me. Fast forward 5 years later, they're playing the San Francisco 49ers. It's the playoffs. And there is Odell Beckham Jr. on the sidelines yelling, we, not me. We, not me. We, not me. He came onto that team in week 10 of the season, and he's yelling, we, not me. And if you know anything about OBJ, that's not something he said with the Browns or the Giants. But here he was yelling, we, not me, and I said, that's it. That thing we talked about 5 years ago was now ingrained in a new player, and he was reinforcing it, and he was leading it, and he was an amazing leader, by the way, on that team. And I saw firsthand the power of culture coming to life when we live those core values, when we share those core values, when we focus on them. You see, every organization today seems to have a mission statement, but only the great ones have people on a mission. Is your team, is your organization on a mission? Is it? Doesn't sound that way. Come on, is it on a mission? Well, if not, good, we gotta get on a mission. We gotta make sure that we're focusing on our core values and that our people are living it and breathing it. Remember Enron years ago? One of their core values was integrity. How did that go? So we gotta make sure that we're picking those core values, we're living those core values, we're ingraining them in what we do. And that's how we activate it. We activate with culture and creating that culture. And then that culture drives everything that we do. And then you win a Super Bowl because of that culture. And you could say what happened the following year with the Rams. They lost their culture. Sean will tell you, didn't do a great job of continuing it. But they did again this year and didn't have the greatest team in terms of talent, but really outperformed as a result of their culture. So everyone on your team is building your culture. Everyone is showing up every day saying, how can we create this culture? And then focusing on it and living the values on a daily basis. And that brings us to the next way that we activate this competitive advantage. We have a vision and mission of where we're going and why we're going there. We're always looking forward towards the future. Where is it that you want to go? What is it that you want to build? And what is your purpose along the way? What is your why? Remember, we don't get burned out because of what we do. We get burned out because we forget why we do it. And when you know your why, you'll know the way. You won't let obstacles get in the way. So what is our why? What is our vision? And here's the thing. We're always looking forwards, not backwards. We're always looking to create the future, not live in the past. 2020, I was invited to go speak to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had just lost in the first round of the playoffs. And they are reeling, they are just frustrated. They're trying to figure out what went wrong the year before, because they were picked to win the Stanley Cup, and here it is that they now lose in the first round. So when I show up, you could just tell they're depressed, they're down, they're distraught, and they are just searching for answers. I said, look guys, that was last year. We're in training camp this year. I said, we can't go backwards, we gotta look forwards. I said, we can't be bitter, we gotta get better. And I gave them research. Teams that feel like they're defending something don't do very well. But teams that feel like they're attacking a new opportunity do great. That changed everything for that team, shifted their perspective. They went on to win the Stanley Cup. They won the next year and made it to the finals a year after that. And by the reason for their success, of course not, I also spoke to the Cleveland Browns. So I know it's never the talk, it's never the book. It's always the culture, it's the leadership, it's the teamwork, it's the mindset, it's how they're showing up every day and activating this competitive advantage. But it shifted that mindset. They were attacking a new opportunity. In your business, in your organizations, you have to attack a new opportunity, and you have to get everyone to do the same. Let's look forward, not backward. Let's create the future, not live in the past. Yes, we were here yesterday, but here's where we're going now. Yes, we had this setback. Yes, we had this challenge, but here's where we're going now. We are going to create the future. Are we ready to create the future? Attacking a new opportunity. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna have challenges. We're gonna have setbacks. Fear so often sets in. I wrote a book called The Shark and the Goldfish. Goldfish wait to be fed. Sharks go find food. Sharks have faith. They believe that there is food to be found, so they are swimming in the ocean. And by the way, the shark and the goldfish is about a nice shark. Doesn't eat people. But it's about going forward and saying, okay, we're gonna choose faith as we create the future. Even when we have setbacks, even when we have challenges and obstacles along the way. So years ago, maybe 6 years now, I did a thing called the positive cookie. So I do this thing called the positive cookie. It was an organic, gluten-free, dairy-free, you might say taste-free, but it actually tasted really good. And it was really an incredible cookie that was a real healthy cookie. And so we make these cookies, it's a positive cookie, and inside there's a card with a positive quote on it, sharing positivity, like a fortune cookie, but just a new twist on that. So now we get this cookie, and it's selling, we're selling online. And as we go to stores though, we're bringing out to all these different stores, they're telling us that it will cost us about $1 to make it, and they will pay us $1.30 for the cookie. That is not a scalable business model for anyone who knows business. You can't spend $1 to make 30 cents. And that's what it looked like. And in that moment, I talked to a good friend of mine who is a very successful businessman who said, John, you gotta find another way, a cheaper cookie, or be done with it. And I asked myself, am I supposed to do a cheaper way? Should I keep going forward? And I heard, I did not put you on earth to make cookies. And I realized in that moment that was gonna cost me a lot of money, because I had spent a ton in R&D and making the cookies and all the research and everything up to that point. So I was gonna lose a ton of money. And quickly, that positive cookie became a negative cookie. I now called it my negative cookie, not positive cookie, and walked away from the business. But then I asked myself, is there something else you can do? Because you had the energy and capacity to create this cookie in addition to writing and speaking. You had something else you could do. So it showed me I had the energy capacity to do something else. And because of that, I said, what am I here to do? And then I realized I'm here to do leadership training. I'm here to develop leaders around the world and invest in them so they could become great leaders who inspire their teams and build strong teams and ultimately make a difference in this world. That is what I'm here to do. That is what I'm gonna focus on. And I began a training company right after that. And now we have literally developed and trained thousands of leaders around the world. And I believe over the next 20, 30 years, God willing, it will be millions of leaders around the world. All because I did the positive cookie that became a negative cookie that became now a positive cookie once again. So I now call it a positive cookie because I realized that challenge, that mistake, that failure actually led to what I'm here to do right now. Your failure is not meant to define you, it's meant to refine you, to be all that you are meant to be. And the failures along the way are here to ultimately serve our growth. We're gonna go through challenges, we're gonna go through setbacks, but those failures, those obstacles help us grow and become ultimately the leaders we're meant to be. So when you're going through a mistake, when you're going through a challenge, when you're going through a setback, a difficult time, just realize this is testing me, it is teaching me, and is transforming me to who I am meant to be on this journey. And so now leadership is what we're all about, training is what we're all about, and we don't have the cookie anymore to eat, but now we're actually nourishing others on this journey. And so learn from your mistakes, attack that new opportunity, turn your challenges into opportunities as you go forward. And this brings up the next way that we can activate this competitive advantage, and it is by making sure that we address the negativity that exists. We don't allow this negativity to sabotage our team and organization. The biggest mistake that leaders and teams make is that they allow the negativity to persist and exist, and eventually it will sabotage your team and your organization. Remember telling my dad, I want to be a writer and speaker, Dad. I found my calling. His response, what the heck do you want to do that for? That's a load of junk. That won't amount to anything. He said, just focus on your restaurant. At the time I had this restaurant because I had to pay the bills, had to support my family, right? After my wife threatened to leave me. Okay, how am I gonna pay the bills? And I second mortgaged my home, $20,000 in credit cards to open up this first Moe's Southwest Grill franchise in Florida. Anyone been to Moe's? We were the first Moe's in Florida, the 5th Moe's in the entire country, put everything into that. And so my dad was saying, just focus on your restaurant. Don't do this writing and speaking thing. My dad had the gift of discouragement. Several years later, I got on the Today Show. I remember flying up to New York to be on national television. I'm terrified. I get to the green room, they sat me next to Queen Latifah. We had this incredible conversation. She was energizing. It came my time to go be with Lester Holt. I'm walking towards the door and she said, "You go, energy guy." And I went out there and I coached several people on enhancing their energy and their optimism for their work. And as I walked out of the studio, who called me on the phone but my dad? He's like, "Your mother, I just saw you on TV. You really made a difference. We're so proud of you. We always knew you could do it." I learned a valuable lesson right there. Not everyone will see what you see. Not everyone will share your vision. Not everyone will share your optimism and your belief. But your positive energy must be greater than all the negativity. Your certainty must be greater than all the doubt. Leaders, we gotta address the negativity that we see exist. Do not run from it. Do not hide from it. We have leaders around the world now putting elephants on their desk to deal with the elephant in the room. Nick Nurse, he was the coach of the Toronto Raptors at the time. On their march to win an NBA championship, he put an elephant on his desk, a reminder to his team, we're gonna deal with the issues. We're gonna have the hard conversations. We're gonna make sure that we don't allow these things to go unchecked. And as a result of that, they had a lot of different hard conversations that they had to have as a team in order to get better. I can't talk about the conversations they had, but I know that if they don't have those conversations, they would not have won a championship. Your team needs to have these difficult conversations in order to grow, in order to improve, in order to get better. And so what I want to share with you is difficult conversations don't have to be difficult. I want to share with you a little model for having difficult conversations as a team. This is great for families and great for business teams. It's the STAR 3 model. S stands for small ego, big mission. I got this from the US women's soccer team. They won the World Cup that year. They would get together after every game and they would talk about who messed up, who need to play better, who need to improve. Allie Long was on the team. I said, "Allie, no one took it personal?" She said, "No, we all wanted to be great together." They had small egos, big mission. They wanted to be great. They weren't focused on their self and their ego. They were focused on how they can make the team better. The T stands for tell the truth. Everyone say tell the truth. Pete Carroll has Tell the Truth Mondays. Well, he did have Tell the Truth Mondays with Seattle and the Seahawks. And every Monday, after a Sunday game, they would get together and they would talk about who messed up. What does the film show? How can we improve? Again, it was part of their culture to address the negativity and the challenges in order to get better. And as a result of that, they all got better. Tell the truth. We gotta tell the truth as a team. We gotta tell the truth as an organization. We gotta tell the truth in love to the people that we want to help grow. Love and accountability is essential. We gotta tell the truth. A, assume positive intent. Assume positive intent. So when you're having those meetings, assume that each person has positive intent, that they really care and we're trying to make each other better. If we go into that with positive intent and we help each other grow, we're gonna get better together. And then there's R3, which is 3 R's. The first R is rules of engagement. Create your rules of engagement in your meeting. So this is how we're gonna have these difficult conversations. This is how we're gonna engage. We're not gonna get emotionally charged. One of our rules of engagement with our team is no meeting after the meeting. You know when you have the meeting, and then afterwards everyone's talking about the meeting, and then people are like, that was a stupid idea. But they don't say it in the meeting. We gotta make sure that we address things in the meeting and talk about it in the meeting. It's one of our rules of engagement. You create your rules of engagement that allow you to have these conversations as a team. The second R is relationship. When we have these conversations, remember, it's always about the relationship. Let's not lose the relationship. Let's make sure that we can have disagreements, but those disagreements still serve us, still serve our relationship, and we don't lose that. In this country, we're losing so many relationships with disagreements. Let's make sure that we maintain our relationships. And then there's respect. We're gonna disagree, but as a team, let's respect each other. Let's respect each other's opinion. Let's respect where they stand, even if we disagree. And when you have this and the star 3 model, you're able to have difficult conversations. And then what you find is that the negativity doesn't sabotage you. It doesn't hurt you. And along the way, we gotta make sure that we're doing that, and then also addressing the energy vampires that exist in our team and organization as well. One person can make a team, but one person could break a team. In the words of Gandhi, I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. And we will not allow anyone to walk through our mind, our team, with their dirty feet. We're gonna make sure that we post that sign that says, no energy vampires allowed. And I gotta tell you, moodiness is a big thing too. We talk about this as well. No complaining, no moodiness. It's not okay to be moody. You talk about it as a team. It's not okay to come here and be positive one day and negative the next, encouraging, uplifting. Next day you're yelling at everyone and you're berating everyone. We gotta be consistent. Moodiness is not good. I was with a professional baseball team and I'm there at spring training, and the manager and the coaches told me how all the players were being really moody these last couple weeks. So when I arrived, I said, listen guys, it's not okay to be moody. It's not okay to be inconsistent, because if you're inconsistent, your team can't trust you and they can't know that you're gonna show up every day and be your best. So if you're not consistent, if they can't trust you and you're moody, then you can't become a great team. It was amazing because I thought they were gonna run me out of there and get upset with me. Afterwards, they all came up to me and said, man, I need to hear that. Thank you for saying that. You're right, I've been moody. I need to be consistent for my team. Essential. So we're not gonna allow moodiness to sabotage us, our team. We're not gonna allow negativity. We're not gonna allow energy vampires to sabotage us and our team. And that's how we activate that competitive advantage, because we address negativity. And so often the teams and organizations and leaders don't address it. And that's why they don't have the competitive advantage. It's why they don't have success. I wanna give you this free Neutralize the Negativity Toolkit. Can I have this slide come up? Can you bring up this slide of this kit? It's a kit. Just download this right here, right now. You can actually just hold up your phone. I don't mind if you have it on. And you could download this toolkit. This is gonna be a very effective way with all my tools on how to address negativity in your teams and organizations. So we address it and we turn it around, we transform it into results, into success, into positive achievement. So we talked about addressing the negativity. Now we have to talk about making sure that we're feeding the positivity. This is where we really have the competitive advantage, when we lead with optimism and belief, and we show up every day, staying positive through our challenges. To do that though, we have to make sure that we're feeding the positive on a daily basis. Research from Duke University shows that optimists work harder, get paid more, and are more likely to succeed in business and sports. And what these researchers found was that these optimists, because they believed in a brighter and better future, they took the actions necessary to create it. So often what we believe determines what we create. My family and I, we were traveling from Jacksonville, Florida, where we live. We were going to Maine, first time ever going to Maine, connecting into Philadelphia Airport. We arrived an hour and a half late. We landed in Terminal A, and we're leaving from Terminal F. I know in Philly you have to connect at C16, which is really far from A. You get to C16, you have to take a bus shuttle, which then takes you to F. I looked at the screen, we only have 10 minutes to make our connecting flight. I'm thinking there's no way we're gonna make it, but we have to go for it. I said, guys, I look at my wife and kids, 8 and 10 at the time. I said, all right, guys, let's start running. So there we were now running through the airport. Those who travel recently, have you noticed more people running through airports? Okay, next time you see someone run by you in an airport, I wanna encourage you to do what I do, cheer them on. I cheer people all the time. The other day, this woman was running by me in the airport, and I said, go, 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 I believe in you, you can do it. And she was running by me, she was struggling. She gave me the thumbs up like this. I don't always get that response. I was in LaGuardia, New York. I cheered this guy on. He gave me the finger. True story. It's okay. I turned a negative into a positive. I said, that's right. You're number one. That was us now. We're running through this airport. We're huffing, we're puffing, we're doing our best. Finally, we get to C-16. There are no bus shuttles there. Look at the watch, 5 minutes to make our connecting flight. There's a woman who's in charge of all the buses. I said, how long do the buses get here? She said, 4 minutes. So my kids start crying. We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. I said, guys, you have to stay positive. You have to believe. I said, we're gonna make it. I'm telling you, we're gonna make it. I turned to the woman, I said, we're gonna make it, right? She said, you ain't gonna make it. Bus arrives, we get on the bus, we get to Terminal F. It's the last gate. So now we are sprinting down Terminal F as fast as we can. I have to admit, I left my wife and kids in the dust. I was getting on that plane with or without them. Just as I arrived, guess what happened? Who thinks it was delayed? Who thinks they slammed the door right in my face? They slammed the door right in my face. Who here is in sales? Have you ever had the door slammed in your face? Oh yeah, we've been there. I was trying to convince her. I was trying to sell her. Man, my wife and kids, they're in their way. Thinking that would help. She said, I'm sorry, sir, there's nothing I can do. I said, you don't understand, we have all these plans. The other flights are booked. We'll have to stay overnight in the airport. It will ruin everything. We have to get on this plane. She said, I'm sorry, sir, the plane is pushing back. Look. My wife and kids arrived in that moment. We walked to the big window. We see the small plane, it's pushing back. As we're watching this plane push back, we're just so dejected. My kids are crying. But then we realized that we could see into the cockpit. We realized that we could see the pilots. We realized that they could see us. We make eye contact. So my wife and kids start jumping up and down, waving to the pilots. About a minute later, the door opened, a woman came out and said, it worked. They're gonna let you on the plane. It was a great moment. I truly became a believer in God in that moment. We go down the stairs on the tarmac. They stopped the plane. The passengers were not very positive. We took off, we landed. Another miracle occurred. Our luggage made it too. True miracle in Philadelphia. So we're driving away in the rental car. I think, okay, great teachable moment for my kids. So what'd you learn from this experience? I said to them, I think they're gonna say, Dad, I want to stay positive. I want to believe. My son, who was 8 at the time, said, Dad, I learned to just keep running. And when he said it, I thought, there's a lot of truth to that, but I also taught him and my wife, yes, we keep running, but we stay positive. We keep believing, and we never give up. Are you with me on that? We never give up. Leadership is a transfer of belief. You believe, but does your team believe? You're positive, but is your team positive? You gotta feed yourself to be able to feed them, because if you don't have it, you can't share it. So every day we gotta be sharing our positivity, our optimism, our belief on a daily basis with our team. Are you sharing with yours? Who needs to do more of that? Who needs to share this optimism and belief with them to help them rise up to what they're meant to be? And let me tell you something, COVID was tough for so many people. The pandemic was tough. I spoke here 2019, came back, and literally I was here the day everything was getting shut down. Julio remembers it well. Here I am, and all my events are being canceled. Like a lot of money going away of people who were hiring me to speak, not knowing what the future held. And I remember just thinking, you gotta just believe. You just gotta stay positive. Somehow, some way, we're gonna make a difference. My son really struggled during the pandemic in college. We had to pull him home. That 8-year-old boy who said, keep running, was now struggling, and he was now 20 in college, and really feeling tons of anxiety and stress and depression, and we had to pull him out. It took everything I had during that time to be a positive leader, to give that to my son and help him through that time, to pull the darkness out of him, to be there with him every day, to really be a true leader who doesn't always just push, but listens and encourages and reminds him of the future that he has and what he said years ago. And I would tell him that, remember, you said keep running. Don't give up. Phil Nico's here, and Phil met my son and is encouraging my son, and now he sees my son who's this college graduate, went back to college and graduated. And just doing so much better now, so much more healthy and just feeling so much more alive. Went through that really tough time. And what I'm passionate about today more than ever is sharing this message with others, because I know the impact it has. I saw it in my own family. I've talked about it for years, but then when you see it impact your family, you go, okay, as Charlotte said, it's real. You're walking the walk, and you know what it's all about, and you know how this really makes a difference. So feed yourself every day in order to feed others. How do we do that? Best advice I ever heard is from Dr. James Gills, the only person on the planet to complete 6 double Ironman triathlons. It's a double Ironman, which means you do an Ironman, a day later do another one, and the last time he did, he was 59 years old. 59. Double Ironman. One day, 24 hours, you do it again the next. How do you do it? He said, I've learned to talk to myself instead of listen to myself. I've learned to talk to myself instead of listen. If I listen, I hear the fear, the negativity, the doubt, all the reasons why I can't finish this race. But if I talk to myself, I can feed myself with the words and the encouragement that I need to keep on moving forward. Who here needs to talk to themselves more instead of listening to themselves? Yeah, watching you earlier with Charlie, you're not gonna raise your hand, I know it. But we all need to talk to ourselves, right? Yeah, there's the power of that. Why? Because discouragement is always setting in. Negative thoughts are always coming our way. When I speak to professional athletes or executives, I always ask them, do your negative thoughts come from you? And they always say, yes, they're in my head. But here's the next question. If you believe your negative thoughts come from you, who would ever choose to have a negative thought? Would you ever choose a negative thought? This blows people's mind. No, I wouldn't. It comes in so fast. Thoughts are spiritual. They come in. What happens is we believe the thought. We believe the lie. Then we reinforce it. Then we speak it out loud, and then we feel guilt and shame for the thought that we had, that we never chose in the first place. You don't have the power of the first thought. It's gonna come in, but you have the power of the second thought. And you can speak truth to those lies and words of encouragement to those negative thoughts that come your way. And this is how we win the battle of our mind. I wrote about this in The One Truth, my newest book. Let me tell you something. This is an important book. This is the result of what I did with my son, and then helping a teenager who was suicidal in the ER 2 nights before. And once he understood that his negative thoughts were not coming from him, and he understood how thoughts work, everything changed with this young man, everything. The next day his parents said, what did you do? He's fine. I said, I just shared the truth with him. I helped him understand how thoughts work. See, he was beating himself up. He thought he was broken. He thought something was wrong with him. Once you understood that it's a battle between negative and positive. In every hero, in every movie, every epic story, there's a hero who must overcome the villain and negativity and adversity to define themselves and create their future and save the lives of others. And that's us, that's leadership. You're a hero in an epic story. But you're not just the hero in your own story. If you are, you're not really a hero, you're a narcissist. The key is to be the hero in someone else's story. Because that's why you go through the battle. It's why you go through the challenge. It's why you take it all on. It's why I had to go through my own darkness to find the light, to now help others find the light. That's what leaders do. And we feed ourselves to feed others. And we gotta do it with this self-talk on a daily basis. We gotta actually speak truth to the lies. And as a man of faith, as a Jewish kid from Long Island who would then find faith and give his life to Jesus, that changed me and changed everything in my life. I'm someone who then learned how to win the battle of my mind and then move forward to be able to help others win that battle. And then I saw this with my wife as well. It's not as daunting as what I was going through with my son, but it was still not good because my wife was complaining about a year ago. She was being really negative. She was like, I'm getting old. She was, my body's breaking down. She's like, I'm sore all the time. She goes, I'm not gonna be like I was when I was younger. I should just give up. It's pointless, it's futile. I work out, it doesn't even work. I'm like, honey, you worked out, but then you ate cake the next day. She's like, yeah, but it's just, I used to be able to eat cake and it didn't put on the pounds. Now I can't lose weight. And she's being so negative. My wife was always the positive one. I was the negative one. So I'm like, honey, all right, all right, we gotta be positive. You gotta be, I'm telling her, you gotta be positive. She's like, shut up, positive guy. She did not wanna hear from me. And so I go away to a speaking engagement. I'm gone for 2 days. I was glad to be gone those 2 days, I have to admit. I come back, and she's like a different woman. She's all light and free, and she's all positive and happy, and she's bouncing off the walls. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? What did you do with my wife? You're a different person. I go, did you find a boyfriend or something? Like, what's happening? She goes, no, I had that health coaching call, that Zoom with that company where, you know, they did that blood work. And it's really this like really cool, innovative kind of technology where they look at your genes. They look at your DNA and your blood in a very specific way. They told her this is really rare. They said, we don't see this often. They told her that you have the genes of an Olympic athlete. So now she's walking around the house. I am an Olympic athlete. She's like, you wanna play tennis tomorrow? Because I'm an Olympic athlete. I kid you not, the soreness goes away. The pain goes away. She stops complaining. She starts working out because she's an Olympic athlete. She starts getting more fit. You start to notice a big difference. And it's so funny, when the kids were growing up, they were really good athletes, and she would say, oh yeah, they got my genes. Like, I have superior genes, is what she would always say. I'm like, honey, I'm the one who played Division I sports. You didn't even play in high school. And she would always say that, and she's like, see, I told you I had great genes. So now she's taking credit for the rest of our lives. But the cool thing was to watch her transform. She also stopped drinking, which I think was a big part of the inflammation. And now, a year later, she looks better than she has in years. Younger than she has in years. Amazing, just talking positive. What changed? What changed? Her mindset, her thoughts, her words. As a woman thinks, she becomes. As a man thinks, he becomes. As you think, you become. The thoughts you think, the words you say become the life and the reality that you live. Thoughts, words are so powerful, and we have to use them to elevate ourselves, our leadership, and our team. I shared this with the University of Texas football team this year during training camp. I told them the story about my wife. And as I told the story, I had them stand up and say, I am, because she was saying, I am an Olympic athlete. And I had them add a word after that. Because what would happen if we said, I am powerful, I am strong, I am a champion? That's what they were saying. I am a warrior, one young man said. Another young man said, I am enough. Another young man said, I am a great teammate. It was so powerful to see. But an hour later, I'm in the weight room, and the strength coach is in the middle of the team. He's in the center of a circle, and they're surrounding him. And he yelled, I am, and then they yelled, my brother's keeper. He yelled, I am, and they yelled, my brother's keeper. And I was like, whoa, this team is gonna accomplish something special. I said, this is gonna be a team that beats Alabama. Which they did, which I was happy about. Now, this was a better story before they lost in the college football playoffs, but it's still a great story because I saw this team get to a higher level. And that's what happens to us when we feed the positive with optimism and belief, and we feed each other, we go to a higher level. But we don't do this alone. It's all about relationship. They were speaking life into who they were and to who they were to each other, my brother's keeper. We gotta remember, as leaders, as teams, we gotta slow down and invest in our relationships. We activate the competitive advantage with great relationships. I'm not gonna talk about the 4 C's right now, but you might have heard me talk about it before. Communication, write it down. Connection, commitment, and caring. Communication, connection, commitment, and caring. We implement those 4 C's. Communication builds trust. That communication allows us to connect more. Communication shares the same etymology as communion, commune, community. So in our communication, we then connect better. In our connection, that leads to a greater commitment. You'll never have commitment without connection. So we have to make sure we're connecting in order to commit. And then, because of that commitment, we focus on we, not me, and we serve and sacrifice for each other. And we elevate our leadership and our teamwork when we are serving each other, sacrificing for each other, making each other better on this journey. And then from there, we care more. Do we care more? Are we demonstrating that? Another personal example, because I think personal examples really reveal leadership and on a daily basis and in real life. My wife and I were in New York this summer. I was speaking to a school district there, not far from my old high school where I grew up. And I have friends from high school that live there still, so I wanted to see them. So we rented a house for a week so I could hang out with my friends and go do this talk. We had dinner with my good friends, and that night we made our way back to the house we were renting. When we got back, my wife's like, hey, I can't believe it. I forgot the milk. I wanted to get milk. I need milk in the morning for my coffee. My wife has to have milk with her coffee or she can't have the milk. And so she said, I'm gonna have to get up tomorrow morning and I'm gonna have to go get the milk. And I said, it's okay, it's not far from here, you'll be fine. Wasn't being a servant leader in that moment, right? But something woke me up at 7 a.m. and said, go get the milk for your wife. I'm like, fine. So I'm now driving to go get the milk for my wife to the grocery store. I wanted to go work out. We were going to speak at Harvard that day. I had a lot going on, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get her milk. So I'm driving there, and I get to the store, and I'm just excited because I'm like, you know what? She's gonna love this. She's gonna love that I went and I got her milk. She's gonna think this is awesome. I'm in the checkout line. I said to the woman, I just got my wife some milk. I said, she's gonna call me St. John because she's not expecting this. So when I get there, she's gonna call me St. John. She's gonna be so excited. So I'm driving back to the house, and I'm literally thinking about what a great husband I am. And having such a deep thought about that, I kid you not, I'm like thinking, oh, she's gonna love this. She's gonna think I'm awesome, great husband, sacrificing. I was in such deep thought, I didn't realize that I was speeding. 2 minutes later, the sirens come on. Police officer pulls me over. Did you know that you were speeding? Officer, I had no idea. I was getting milk for my wife. She was gonna call me St. John. I mean, it was gonna be awesome. It was gonna be great. I said, my dad's a New York City police officer. He passed away 7 years ago. I said, you are too. I said, I know you respect that. He goes, yeah, that's fine that your dad was a cop, but you're getting a ticket today. He goes, you're getting a ticket. It's gonna put points on your license. It's gonna increase your insurance. He said, I'm sorry about that, but too bad. You're gonna have to, if you want to, come back for a court date in December, and you could try to plead it, but otherwise, this is your deal. He walks away. I'm like, I can't believe this. This guy would give his own mother a ticket. I know it. I know it. I'm driving home, and I am just livid at that moment. I'm like, I can't believe this happened. I'm just trying to do something good. I'm trying to be St. John, and then this happens. And I yelled, no good deed goes unpunished. I get into the house. I said, honey, I got you your milk for your coffee. I said, it's gonna be the most expensive cup of coffee that you've ever had, because it was the most expensive milk I've ever bought. We're looking at probably $400-600 for it all at this point, plus insurance and everything else that's gonna go up. I leave, I go, I'm gonna go work out. I go to the gym, and as I'm driving to the gym, something came to me. Something positive is gonna come from this. Something has to come from this. I don't know why, but something positive has to come from what just happened. Okay, what's it gonna be? I get to the gym. I didn't know it was gonna be that fast. I'm now working out. I have this bench that I'm using. This woman who's next to me, she's about my age, she needs the bench. She's working out with a trainer, so they asked for it. I said, sure. I then engaged in a conversation with them, and then I said, hey, do you have a local attorney around here? Because I just got this ticket, and I'm thinking I can have an attorney represent me in December instead of going myself, and they can help with getting a lesser fine. They said, tell us about the police officer. I described him. They said, oh, we know him. Yeah, he gave his own mother a ticket. I'm like, I knew it. So we're engaging some more. The benefit was not the fact that they helped me find an attorney, which they did. The benefit was the conversation we then had after that. We start talking, and I find out that this woman had a son who was 20 years old. He was in college, and he played lacrosse like I did in college. And she was telling me about him, and she told me about how he was in college and he got cancer. And then she told me how he fought with such an incredible positive spirit, amazing faith, and just so full of love. And as she's telling me about him, I'm tearing up and I'm beginning to cry, and she's crying. And then she told me that he passed away. So now I'm really crying, and she's crying. And then I said to her, I said, my parents have both passed away. I've had friends die. I said, I truly believe the soul never dies. I truly believe that the body turns to dust. So what are we really? We're spirit, we're soul, we're essence. Appearance is temporary. Essence is eternal. I said, so I don't think we ever die. I said, I really believe we're like they're still in the next room. They're with us. Do you ever feel his presence? She said, yes, all the time. I said, do you ever feel him talking to you and hear him talking? Yes, all the time. And she said, lately he's been saying, don't be bitter anymore. Don't be angry. I want you to live your life. I want you to enjoy your life. Don't worry about me anymore. You go create a beautiful future for yourself, Mom. And as she was telling me that, we just hugged. And she said, I think this is a sign. I think this is a sign that what he's saying is what I'm supposed to do. I said, you know what? I said, I know it's a sign because if I never got that ticket, I said, we would have never had this conversation. And she said, well, I'm glad you got the ticket. And as I left that day, as I walked out of that gym, got in my car, I was glad I got the ticket too. I really was. It was the most expensive cup of coffee ever, but I was glad I got the ticket. I realized I got this great lesson that came to me from that. Sometimes you have to be busy and stressed to help others be blessed. So often in our life, we're gonna be busy and stressed. That's leadership. It's gonna be part of our journey. I know we can do everything to manage stress, to overcome stress, but also recognize it's a part of the journey, and so is being inconvenienced. As a leader, to help others, it's gonna require commitment and service and sacrifice. But that's what makes us great leaders, when we're willing to do that and step into that and willing to help others on this journey. It's not about me, it's about we. And as I help you grow, what happens is I grow. As I help you get better, I get better. And this journey of leadership is losing self and being selfless to help others become all they're meant to be. And it's why I love coaches, because coaches give everything that they are to help others become all they're meant to be. It's why I love teachers. Any teachers in the room? I love teachers because teachers give everything of who they are to help their students become all that they're meant to be. And we could do the same. We could do the same in sales, in business, in our organizations. We could show up every day and give our team our best. And I want to leave you with the fact that every great leader, every great team, to activate the competitive advantage, as we're doing this, just remember, it's not just a nice way to lead. It's just not a nice way to be. It's the way to be, and we do it with excellence. Because you might be sitting there thinking, oh, he's about positivity, slowing down, loving others, but it's also about doing things with excellence on a daily basis. And that requires consistency. We consistently do this day in and day out. I was at Phil's event in New Orleans a few months ago, and John Maxwell was there, and we were both speaking, and we're sitting there together at the table, and I said, John, I came to visit you when I was in my 30s, you were in your 50s. Now I'm in my 50s, you're in your 70s. I said, you weren't that well known then, you weren't that well known then, but now you've become iconic. What's the key? And he said, John, consistency compounds. Consistency compounds. Bring that back to your organization. Consistency compounds. But how do we become more consistent? I believe it's through discipline. The more disciplined we are, then we can actually be more consistent. But it's actually not just discipline. Everyone thinks success is about discipline. You know what actually drives discipline? This is the key to success. It's devotion. The more devoted we are, that drives our discipline. Discipline is actually really hard. Consistency is hard when you're not devoted to it, when you don't love it. But if you love it, you will do whatever it takes to become great at it. If you love your team, you will be devoted to them. People ask me all the time, do you have an accountability partner when you're on the road, with you in your marriage? I go, no, I'm devoted to my wife. That drives my discipline. I'm also scared of her, but fear and devotion go hand in hand. But there's a devotion and a love that drives how I live. When you're devoted to your craft, you will do whatever it takes to become better at it and improve and learn and grow. So remember, consistency, discipline, but the devotion that drives it to then be more consistent. Because every team I work with, we have trouble with consistency, John. Yes, it's human nature to have struggles with discipline and consistency. So the way we get more consistency is a higher state of mind instead of a lower state of mind. I want to encourage you to read The One Truth. The One Truth will teach you how to have that higher state of mind so you have more consistency and you and your team can come together more in oneness and connection from love and devotion that drives you to be a more powerful, united team instead of the negativity and separation and weakness that cause you to be a team that feels powerless. And we are meant to be leaders who feel power, leaders who build teams that are powerful, because that's how we change this world. And if you're competitive, use that competitiveness. Competitiveness is a great thing on this journey. The best leaders, the best teams are competitive. I bet the pastor of this church is competitive. No doubt about it. Because the greatest leaders I meet, the greatest teams have a competitive spirit because every day they show up, they want to win. But then what you realize is, as we're winning, the key to really winning is how can I win more hearts and minds for our mission, for our cause? How can I love people and engage them to help them become all they're meant to be so that when they show up, they love their work, they love their job, and then that produces incredible fruit in their life. I want to leave you with this. When you invest in the root, you get a great supply of fruit. To activate that competitive advantage, we're competitive, we're consistent, we're devoted, and we take the time every day to invest in the root of the things that matter. Instead of focus on what is urgent, we focus on what matters. People, culture, relationships, vision, mission, optimism, and belief. And showing up every day with this competitive spirit to produce excellence. And when we do, I truly believe, as Julio said, the best is yet to come. Thank you so much.
I'm going to do a quick audible. Let's hear it up for John Gordon real quickly. Thank you, John. Awesome. I want to do an audible here because I know there's always questions. Charlotte, could you come up and join us? I'm going to open up the floor. And if anybody has any specific questions, and I actually want to start off with one, Charlotte, for you. That I was thinking about. We've been hearing about mind management, priority management, right? Capacity management. What are two of the biggest disciplines or habits or areas that you think can help accelerate a leader's growth? There's so much information out there. There's so many people have different bents. But what are one or two things that we could do to accelerate our leadership where it's meaningful?
I think, you got to invest in yourself. A lot of times when you're leading a team or a company or a corporation, a lot of your energy and effort is on the mission of your team, the mission of the goal, what we are going to do as an organization. But if you're stagnant as a leader yourself, then the company is going to bottleneck around you. And so learning how to invest in yourself, which is doing something outside of the job that actually feeds the thing that is the ability, that is the God-given gift and talent inside you. I need to get around people that have a wisdom that shape the wisdom in me so that when I'm with my team or I'm leading, I've already invested and outgrown where maybe they've become stagnant. So I think investing in yourself is a huge thing. For a long time, I was leading in a setting where I had lots of staff and lots of team. And again, I made a capacity adjustment. I stepped out of my role and went into mentoring, into leadership, something I thought I'd never do, because to me the word mentor makes me think of Yoda from Star Wars with big ears and he's green, and I'm like, I don't fit the mold. But I realized there was such a gap for especially women in leadership that I first started leaning into, for people to find someone that could actually shape them. You know, it's like being a parent, right? You're so busy looking after the kids and sorting stuff out and taking care of what they need, you forget to eat yourself, take care of yourself, feed yourself. So I think something that you do, that you gift yourself this year, what can I do this year that is purely and simply helping me in my ability grow and become better? So invest in yourself.
That's good. That's good. I want to open up the floor because I got questions here that I can ask. Does anybody have a particular question for John? Right here. We have a mic right here. We're right in the middle of the road, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Both of y'all were absolutely fantastic. So my specific question, I'm about to start working with an author who's going to be doing his third book on emotional intelligence. I guess what I'm looking for is an advice. Once you start growing and you start getting all of that energy, what ways in y'all's history, when you experienced that growth, did you handle that trajectory? Because it's a lot.
I think it's what Charlotte said earlier in terms of if your home is not strong, if you don't have a strong foundation, then eventually you will crumble from the weight of the pressure, the expectation, and all the accolades around in the outside world. It's about knowing you create from the inside out. So as you start growing, serve more at home. I get home, my wife says, take out the trash. Take out the trash. So serve at home. I made the decision in 2014, 15 to serve at home. It was my word for the year, serve. And that year that I served really helped me grow as a leader, but it helped my team around me. And because I did that, we transformed our family that year. At the beginning of that year, I realized, I thought my team was the problem. I'm like, they were all struggling. I'm on the road speaking all the time. My wife's like, I need your help. I'm like, fine, I'll help, thinking they were the problem. At the end of the year, I realized I didn't need a different team. I need to become a better leader. And as I served more at home, I watched them grow, and I improved. Every book after that became a bestseller because I was now truly walking the walk, living the principles, and creating my foundation strong at home. And to this day, we have great relationships because of that year.
Can I just add to that? I would also say, for me, I think about it this way. Have you ever been to the grocery store and you take your kids and you didn't realize they're just throwing tons of stuff in the cart that they see on the shelf that they really like? I want one of those. And while your back's turned, you've ended up with stuff that you would never. And then you get to the cash out and you're like, you got to pay the bill, right? I think life and leadership is like that. You need to make sure you check what you put in the cart because the cashier's coming. And if you don't have enough emotional resource, in the bank with your family or in yourself, if you don't have the amount of credit needed to pay for what you put in the cart, you should probably put some stuff back on the shelf for now so that actually what you say yes to, you can actually pay the bill of the cost of that. That's how I feel about my calendar and things that I say yes to. I'm like, do I have in our family, in my home, in my discipline, do I have enough in the cart to actually, because the cashier is coming. Right? It's coming whether you like it or not. And I think a lot of times we have to just stop being so eager to fill the cart and first of all ask, what can I afford to put in the cart?
Whew, that's a good analogy. Every one of us can relate to. We have another question right here.
Thank you both so much. You are both obviously such incredible public speakers, veterans at it, created such an amazing career around speaking and writing. And John, I love what you said about how you got to start talking to yourself instead of listening to yourself. So what I would love your opinion on is how have you guys translated some of your expertise to speaking externally to speaking to yourself internally?
So in terms of how do we help ourselves stay positive on this journey? Yeah, it's really a lot of self-talk and a lot of prayer. A lot of prayer, and it's a lot of reminder of why we do this work and why we're here. So the goal for me is to always remind myself, love the audience, and the more I love the audience, right, they'll love you back. Pavarotti said everybody wants the audience to love them, but I love the audience. That was a defining moment for me. Just really try to love the audience and give them what You're here to give them all you can give them. And then from there, it's up to them of what they do with it.
Another question? Oh, go ahead.
I have been very fortunate to have a lot of really awful bosses.
Awful bosses.
And
You've learned a lot.
I have learned a lot, and I have taken that to mentoring my team and how I want to lead. But how do you change the culture up?
Oh, that's good. So working with a lot of coaches, they're not the owners of the team. They're not the GMs. They have to lead up and they have to lead down and lead around, 360 leadership. The key for that kind of leadership is you lead up by leading from who you are. So you lead from the inside out, and then you impact the people around you. So your values, your principles will literally affect the people around you, and it will lead up as well. You also could share your principles. You could share your values. You could share what you're doing with your higher ups. So often I have people at middle level management that will give my books to their VPs and their CEO, and then I get brought into the company. And it doesn't come from the leadership initially. It comes from a leader who's influencing the people around them because they're leading by example. They've earned the trust and the credibility of the people around them. So they're doing things with excellence. And because of that, they've actually become someone who has moral authority. And now they can actually share something like that up with their leaders. So their leaders trust them, respect them, and as a result of that, it actually influences them. And I tell people all the time, yeah, just because your leader is at a higher level than you on the title or the org chart doesn't mean they're necessarily a great leader. And as you said, we see that often. So we've got to actually teach our leaders how to be better leaders. If that doesn't work, just give them the energy bus or the power of positive leadership. And I'm not trying to be self-promotional, it actually does work a lot.
We got time for one more question. Right here. Can we get a quick mic? Yeah.
You can shout it, we can hear you.
Yeah.
So the 30-cent cookie, I found that a lot, well, for myself, it's easy to be emotional about the 30-cent cookie because you spent money, you spent time. It's easy to stay revolving in that. I guess, how do you find that it's or not easy, but how did you shift out of that and actually stay positive on something else and let it go?
So the cookie where I was making 30 cents profit per cookie, how did I shift out of that when I realized I had to walk away from it? I had to let it go. It really is about recognizing that your future is greater than your past. It's recognizing that with optimism and belief, I do believe that whatever I've lost, I have the energy to create something exciting and something new. That comes with faith. And that comes with the ability to let go of the things that don't go well, that don't go right. When Clemson football lost to LSU, in the national championship years ago, I called up Dabo literally the next day. How you doing? Because I've worked with Clemson the last 12 years. He goes, doing great. He goes, this was their year. What a team. Man, that team is amazing. I loved watching them play. He goes, but you know what? We're gonna have the best decade ever in Clemson football's history. And he was already thinking about the future literally the next day and had already let it go. And I think that's very healthy for us to do in our relationships, in our past transgressions. I think the key for my success is I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had a lot of failures, but I've never beaten myself up over them. I know we're all on a journey to improve, to get better. And we're not perfect, we're flawed. And knowing that, how can I continually get better every day? And that mistake of the past is actually gonna be a great lesson for me to become better in the future. And then you gotta forgive. When people have wronged you, I've been wronged by partners in the past that have stolen from me. I chose to forgive them and move on. And because I moved on, their business suffered and I actually created something new and exciting. So it's taught me along the way, just keep building something new because God is always doing something new.
Hey, I wanna wrap up this one last thought, Charlotte and John. One last tip, and we've talked a lot. You guys have given us a mouthful. One last tip on just leadership. As we move forward, as we leave this morning, one last thought that we can take with us on leadership.
I think
Same thing for you, John.
this is probably not flashy, impressive, but honestly, can I just encourage you all as leaders to just live a leadership that's honest? You know, your question a moment ago to John about the cookie and the failure. I think a lot of times we conceal things that we feel we would be embarrassed about. We hide the dip in the profits or the failure in the relationship, or we don't talk about the thing that happened in the team that has caused us, you know, the most heartache. And I've learned as a leader, people are not looking for perfection. They're looking for something that they can relate to. They're looking for something that they can go, I can see in what you've just shared myself. And because you've just shown me something that I can relate to, I'm gravitating to leaning in to you more. And I think we need it in our political, economic, financial sectors. We just want to know, is this actually the real deal? Are you actually who you say you are? And honestly, I think so many leaders are exhausted because they're living a double life. And it's like putting a mask on every day and an outfit on every day. But then when you go home, you're a completely different person. And eventually that just catches up on you. Eventually it just becomes something you can't anymore straddle the chasm that you've created. So I think honestly, transparency and just being honest and I'll just be real honest. I almost didn't make it today. Like, I'm being real honest with you. Like I'm up here and I came all the way from the UK and 2 nights ago stayed in a hotel. And I wasn't the only one sleeping in the bed. It was riddled with, apparently, bugs. So literally, I'm just going to be honest, if I pull my sleeve down. Exactly. Not sexy, right? But can I say some of you have that? You have a wound. You have a bite from an employee. You have a story, you have a tale. But what we do is we put this together, but then everybody that's listening to you can't relate to this, but they can totally relate to this. And I just think we've just got really good at this. And I just think, you know what? Let's have a little bit more of this.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. Before she even said that, I was thinking, tell them about wounds and healing. That's what came to me. Tell them about wounds and healing. Patrick Lencioni and I did a full day with 75 top leaders. And the second half of the day was wounds and healing. It was supposed to be about an hour. It went the whole second half of the day because everyone wanted to talk about that. So as a leader, you're either leading from your wounds or you're healing. And we often have wounds that hold us back, wounds that need to be healed. And then we act out accordingly. We act out in frustration. We may yell at an employee. We may be fearful. We may get upset and angry. We may not feel like we're enough. And because of that, it affects our leadership. So I can work with a leader, which I often do, and I've become really good at helping them identify what their wound is, why they're acting out in that way. And then the key is to then heal the wound. Because as we heal the hole in our soul, H-O-L-E, and we focus on becoming more whole, W-H-O-L-E, that elevates our leadership and allows us to elevate our team. Because everyone is coming to work with wounds. And relational psychology says you heal in a loving relationship. So can you heal at work? Yes, if there are loving relationships at work. So be the kind of leader that is leading from your faith and your love instead of from your fear. And by the way, this is something I had to recognize myself as a leader. My wounds, how it's causing me to be a bad father, a better husband. And my journey has been about how I can help heal. And then even with my team at times over the course of the last few years as we're doing this new venture and training, I found myself again, getting frustrated at times, being frustrated, like, how come they don't know this? How come they can't do this? And then I realized, that's coming from your own wounds of the past, your own challenges. So it helps me recognize every time you act out, every time you're not the leader you want to be, it's actually a signal and a sign that more healing needs to take place so you can become more whole, a better human being, and that will lead you to becoming a better leader.
Can we hear it up for John Gordon and Charlotte Gambill? Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Julio.
Thank you. Wow. Woo. I'm reminded that being an authentic leader will not guarantee success, but it will guarantee failure for sure, right? There are other skills that we need. And I want to leave you with one little nugget, and that is the TNT philosophy. The TNT philosophy, we've heard a lot today. And the TNT philosophy stands for today. Ahora, today, not tomorrow. I want you to think about what you've heard this morning, what one or two areas are you going to recalibrate? Are you going to work on? Are you going to focus on? One or two areas. We all come to these type of growth and development environments, and there's so much information. There's a lot of good content, but really the key is to extract the one or two areas that you and I can kind of work on so we implement today and not tomorrow. Thank you so much on behalf of all of our sponsors. Thank you, John and Charlotte. Y'all have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you a little bit later on. Thank you so much.